here. All right, we're about to do this Monday Q&A review, Bro.Diallo. This is our third episode of Monday Q&A. Let's just fade out the music and get to the wafadu. All right. This is Monday Q&A with Bro.Diallo. I'm on both Facebook Live and what's this? YouTube. So I have to start off. I'm sorry. Chris asked me a question yesterday that I couldn't answer. No, he asked me a question last week that I could answer, but I didn't want to answer because it's such a sensitive question. It's such a sensitive question for me. I get in my feelings. So this is the West and the rest of us, white predators, black enslavers, and the African elite. And this is decolonizing the African mind, both by the brilliant. He's actually not really a political or social scientist. I think he's an engineer by formal training, but he is an African patriot, an African nationalist who seeks to help us recover what was lost, which is our goddamn minds. Gotta remember I can cuss on here. But anyway, let me shut the door. My sons are doing their thing somewhere else in the house, and I don't want them my sons in our business. Okay. But he asked me what I thought about Chinwezu's critique of Nkrumah's continentalism. And so I told him, let me go revisit the book. It's been quite some time since I've read Chinwezu. I have this and The Anatomy of Female Power, but I don't really keep my books in good order. They're all over the place, downstairs, upstairs, up front, up back. So I have to, every time I need a book that I haven't read in some times, I gotta literally, plow through a mountain. But I found them. Chris put me to work. I don't even know if he's on here listening, but I'm going to answer his question and he can see the video later. I'll send it to him. But Chris wanted to know. But let me just give you some backstory on what they actually said before I tell you what I think about what he said. Chinwezu on Decolonizing the African Mind, page 102, wrote that the Pan-African dream in the original form expounded by W.B. Du Bois. Already, I'm ready to, but let's just read what the man wrote. Marcus Garvey and Ras Makinen, that is the Egyptian emperor, not Egyptian, Ethiopian, Lord have his mercy, and others, was a dream of black unification and black power to wipe out the humiliations of the past 5 centuries. It proved highly energizing for the movement for political independence. So he's essentially saying that the originators of the very concept and the movement of Pan-Africanism was a dream, was a vision, was about black people exclusively all over the world reasserting our position. Oh yeah, okay, Chris is here. However, Nkrumah, for tactical reasons, connected with the anti-colonial movement, which I never saw Pan-Africanism being separate from anti-colonialism, but I don't know how you can connect two things that are in. That's like connecting, disconnecting water from wetness, but whatever. Anti-colonial sponsored a variant of Pan-Africanism which drained it of its inspirational energies. In his continentalist version, African unity meant the political unification of the African continent as a distinct form of from the African peoples, which is a problem. This meant uniting the Africans together with the fraction of the white Arab world, which had invaded and expropriated the northern end of the black homeland, and which had actively enslaved Africans until the European conquest restrained them. So he's basically saying the originators of Pan-Africanism was like, it's black. It's not tied to the land of Africa. It's here and here in our mind and hearts. Can you see me point to my heart? And Nkrumah said, no, Pan-Africanism is about the geography of Africa. And the geography of Africa includes North Africa, which is the land occupied by Arab invaders. He says that the Arabs are white people. I agree. Dr. Bobby E. Wright said to define Arabs as anything other than white invaders is a pathological denial of history. So what I think about this, I know Kwame Nkrumah said this is a vision, this is a dream, this is a belief, this is a desire, but it has to be implemented. At the same time, Nkrumah went from being a scholar and a revolutionary to being a statesman, to being a bureaucrat. And he said, how do I implement this? And he decided tactically that I would have to, in order to, you have to create this, what they call triage. And a triage is when you're in a crisis situation, emergency situation, you have to deal with the problems according to the severity. So if you're in an emergency room and you're looking at patients, and a patient comes in with a gunshot wound, a patient comes in with an infectious disease, and a patient comes in with a severe toothache, that you have to prioritize those injuries and those issues. The infectious disease patient might not be on the verge of death, but they have the potential of infecting everyone around them. So you put them in isolation and stabilize them. The gunshot wounds, you have to take them to the crash cart and give them more intensive direct. And the toothache dude can get just a minor topical anesthetic and be set aside. And now every patient in their own mind is like, look, we're all suffering. How dare you put this person? But it's a practical thing to do. On a continent under Arab, Asian, and European colonization, invasion, and turmoil, also with very active traditional and internal race trader enemies, I conclude that Nkrumah thought, when I look at the Arabs versus the white man, the Arabs have been here longer and are more integrated on the continent than the Europeans. So if my enemy's enemy is my homie. And so he saw there was even though the Middle East was never officially colonized, the Middle East was defined as a protectorate. And he saw how the Europeans were, and the seven sister major oil companies were dividing up the land, and the emerging Cold War. And he said, a lot of African nations were going to the Soviet Union. A lot of Africans were aligning with the West and saying, let us, govern the colony ourselves, and we'll still. So I think he made a tactical decision to integrate the Arabs into Pan-Africanism, and they've been integrated and dug in like an Alabama tick, a Mississippi leech, from that moment. From the Organization of African Unity to the African Union, they're dug in. It was a tactical decision, but Chinwezu was absolutely right. It was a wrong. Kwame Nkrumah so believed in this unification and this allegiance between continental Africans, the African diaspora, and the Northern Arab occupied Africa, that he married an Arab woman. He went up north and met with Nasser, and he said, in order to solidify this bind between African decolonization and North African Arab occupied decolonization of Europeans, you should take an Arab wife. And he did just that. So he so believed in it, he took it to bed with him. And it proved, we see from the coup, from the lack of Northern support, the ongoing racism in North Africa, the ongoing slave trade in North Africa, the Islamicist disrespect for traditional African culture and belief systems, that the Arabs are allies of convenience of Africa. And I think that Arab-occupied North Africa is no more legitimate than European or Asian Africa, Central and Southern Africa. So it was a mistake. It's a mistake that Kwame Nkrumah recognized too late, but I don't think that Kwame Nkrumah did it with ill intent. And it's something, and that's the thing about revolutionaries versus statesmen. That's why I think revolutionaries should always intensely study statecraft, diplomacy, bureaucracy. These are ugly words to revolutionaries. Even now, you got so-called black reactionaries who pretend to be revolutionaries talking about Don't vote and don't engage in your local politics. Don't engage in policy development and implementation. But if you shun politics, bureaucracy, hierarchies, and all that until the revolution come and you got your own state and you've had 4, 5, 6 generations of fighting but no governance, what do you think is going to happen to the state? Look at Zimbabwe. Look at Congo. So he made a tactical error, one that Africa, the African diaspora and the African continent is still recovering from. I agree with Chinwezu. I do understand why Kwame Nkrumah did it, but I think we should learn from that lesson, and I don't think it detracts from his ultimate achievement and legacy. So let us move on. What questions y'all have? Ebony, H-Rap Brown said that, I'm sorry, I just can't read his Islamic name, that a man will create black capitalists because they won't have to worry about them destroying the system. Yeah, black capitalists are a threat to black people and an asset to our oppressors. But the same goes for is black Muslims. And I'm not really sure how you can say I'm against black capitalists, but I'm gonna be a black Muslim. You know, ideology matters. Identity really matters. So, I mean, I agree, Imam Jamil Abdul Alameen. I don't know how you have such an astute analysis of black capitalists, but you lack in that same critical analysis when it comes to black Muslims. But he is correct. Black capitalists are not our friends. They are internal enemies and they are race traitors and they are fictionalized. You can't be a black capitalist. As I say, you can't be a capitalist and be the capital. You can't exploit resources at the same time you are the resource. So yeah, I just wish he would turn that critical eye to Islam. So was Gaddafi on our side or their side? Gaddafi was on both sides. Gaddafi was not a consistent person. So you have to say where Gaddafi was and what Gaddafi's agenda was. And like most people, we like to say either somebody's bad or good. We're the good guy, bad guy. You're either Batman or the Joker. Gaddafi was a complex figure. Gaddafi was at times hostile to the West, and he was willing to align with anti-colonial forces. And there were times he flirted and wanted to court the West. So Gaddafi was inconsistent, but towards the end of his life, he pretty much saw the folly in trying to court the West and went all African. But by that time, it was too little too late. So he was with the West, he was against the West, and went back with the West. Sometimes Gaddafi aided and aligned with the United States in the war on terror. He aided and he was an ally. He was helping to both capture wanted terrorists and use his territory for the extraordinary renditions, torture, and he aided. So he was an ally of Bush, an enemy of Obama, a semi-antagonistic ally of Clinton, an enemy of Reagan. So he was very inconsistent. And inconsistency, confusion is the enemy of revolution. That's why, even though I think many of the things Gaddafi did, he did with good intent, he was very inconsistent, and confusion is the enemy of the revolution. And ultimately, his legacy will be defined as a reactionary legacy, not a revolutionary legacy. I'm gonna try to keep these answers to the point so we can get as many as in. Do you think some of our sisters who are getting caught up in the political tiff between caveman and cave women will be used once again to get white women's agenda? Absolutely. Many black women, starting with the founder of the Me Too movement, are very cozy with white women, even though it's obvious that the majority of white women are voting Republican. The majority of white women supported Kavanaugh. The majority of white women will not betray their racial allegiance and their material interests for their gender agenda. And I don't know how many more times black women got to be left ass out by white women before they were like, this doesn't work. And some black women try to create the distinction. It's like, well, I'm a black feminist, but like black Muslim, black capitalist, black feminist, you can't really blackify a bankrupt ideology or agenda. So yeah, they will be used. They are being used, and there's no sign that the larger arena of black women who align with the feminists, the Me Too movement, and all of that are changing anytime soon, unfortunately. But we have to continue to point out the contradictions and educate ourselves and mobilize ourselves. But fortunately, the majority of black women are aligned with black men. Most even black so-called feminists are aligned with the Black community as a whole and Black men in particular. So as we criticize and even mock the integrationist feminists, we should also know that we got the majority of our women are ready to lock arms with us once we get our shit together. So let's give them as much loyalty and respect as we have for criticisms of the Black women who seek to abandon us. What in the world? Where y'all at on no questions from YouTube? Everything's from Facebook Live. Okay, let's keep it moving. To be honest, many contemporary African leaders on the continent are consistent, and that's a tragedy. Are inconsistent. I'm sure you were trying to say that is true. Our African leaders are inconsistent. They are flag independents and puppet leaders. And to quote John Henry Clark, he said the independence of Africa is flag independence, not true independence. Where we is. Right. We have no real friends. We do have active allies and potential allies. There is no such thing as permanent allegiances. There's only permanent interests. Even the Haitian Revolution, you'll see a lot of white people, especially Irish, and a lot of native people of the island of Hispaniola join up with us. Everybody wants to be down with the winning team. So every time Africans looked as though we were making progress and securing concessions, people would rally with us. But as soon as they saw that we start to wane, they jump. People jump. Black people do it. Black people jump from, oh, we Yankee Doodle Dandy, we're America. And when America's suffering, we want to be, oh, let's go nationalist. Everybody does it. But no, we have no friends. And that's okay. We don't need friends. Where we have alliances, like I said, when you get a new phone contract or you download an app, it says terms and conditions apply. I'm not against making strategic alliances, but terms and conditions must apply. We must know what we bring to the table, what they bring to the table, what we hope to address. Extract from the alliance, what they will extract from the alliance, and what will be the consequences and punishments and sanctions if you betray the alliance, and what will be the reward if you hold to the alliance. We can't be emotional about, I don't like them, I like them. Does it serve our interest and agenda to work with this group or this individual? Does it subvert our interest to work with this individual? You know, it's not that complex. I'm not even sure why African people are struggling with this concept of allegiances and alliances at this juncture. Let me just put a test because I'm not seeing, yes. I'm not seeing, okay, is there any questions coming in from YouTube? They're just coming in from Facebook. But like I said, yeah, we have no friends, and that's okay. That's nothing to lament because we don't need no damn friends. In current times, who will be remembered as revolutionary? I can't call it. In current times, Assata Shakur, the brother in exile, Pete O'Neill, is a true revolutionary. We got revolutionary scholars, Jared Ball. We got see, now I hate having to call names. My mind always goes blank when it's time to call names. Anthony T. Browder, Dale Jones, who died of recent, Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Baina Bellows, and our sister in Haiti. We got our revolutionaries. So there's some revolutionaries here, but in the overall umbrella of who's revolutionary and who ain't revolutionary, it is the people who are rational and practical and systematic in their engagement and dismantling of the system will be recognized as revolutionary, whereas the guys marching with the guns and waving the RBG flags and wearing football hats and raising money for non-existent projects like schools, I think those guys will be seen as the clowns that they were. I think history will always validate. Garvey, and everybody likes to pretend like they are down with the people of the past and the people of the past, but Garvey, even though he was led the largest, he was called a coon, a monkey, a gorilla by W.B. Du Bois. I don't think Du Bois was a revolutionary, and I don't think Du Bois redeemed himself later in his life. Not that I shun his scholarship. I appreciate his scholarship. I respect his brilliance, but I don't remember him as a revolutionary. So, that's kind of a hard thing to really say. Man, y'all asking long questions. What do you think of Joseph Malinga's position on whites in South Africa? For context, he stated that Black South Africa should control the land, but whites can come along. My understanding is that once in control, they wouldn't be necessary. It wouldn't be necessary to expel them. The thing is, you don't have to expel whites because whites are not going to live under true black governance. When you look at the man, because this is the first time this happened. Remember, Idi Amin did the same thing. He was one of the first African leaders that took the land, had a true land revolution, not just a flag independence. And the white folks got out of Dodge before they knew. Even white people were talking when they thought that Obama. They believed, the white people who had believed that Obama was a Mao socialist who was an African Manchurian candidate brought to bring down America. White people were getting their passports and getting the hell out of Dodge. There is nowhere in the world where white people have allowed themselves to live under or be subjected to any rule other than white rule. So Malema, I wouldn't put resources into kicking white folks out because white people it's like gentrification. You know, the 8% rule. When black people move into the community, is white flight. There will be a massive white flight from Africa. So no, he doesn't have to, and I just think it trends better because they're looking to demonize him. They're looking to justify sending in the Marines, sending in Blackwater mercenaries. They're looking for any reason because that's what's happened to Maduro and Venezuela. They would love for any excuse to send drones to South Africa. So Malema, I wouldn't mess around with. I would talk about justice. I would talk about government policy. This is a government policy. I think he's pursuing this the proper and appropriate way. And there's still going to be economic sanctions. There's still going to be subversion, but you can maintain the diplomatic and rhetorical high ground. But he needs to get ready for the war because the whites there, and I'm sure Israel is already shipping weapons, just like they did when Mandela was coming to power. Israel is going to be very aggressive in trying to support the whites because the whites in South Africa were very loyal in supporting Israel. But you ain't got to kick out the whites. If the land revolution, the political revolution, the cultural revolution taking place in South Africa is successful, white people are going to self-exile. I hope they don't come here. I hope they take their asses back to Europe, but they won't stay in Africa under African rule. They didn't stay in Vietnam under Vietnamese rule. You know, you saw in the Vietnam War when the Viet Cong came down to occupy, to set up Ho Chi Minh City. You saw white people hanging from helicopters. They didn't have to say, "Whitey, get out." They were literally jumping on helicopters, you know, with their casseroles in their backpacks. What kind of ripple effect do you see in you see the petrol currency created by Venezuela will have? This isn't really I don't really think that's their issue. I think that the economic turmoil there, I don't know why they didn't better prepare for it. But I don't really see the cryptocurrencies as being any of the solutions. They're just, I think there's a lot of hype, but I could be wrong. But in Venezuela, I believe that it will provide some minor relief, but it's an inadequate fix. And this is the thing where, same thing that happened to Cuba, when revolutionaries come to power, you can't liberate a nation. This is a global system of oppression. So you free your country, and you got all these other international bodies and all these other nations that are going to move against you. That's what Che tried to tell Fidel. He told him, you're going to be isolated and under constant attack. So Maduro and Hugo Chavez, they should have anticipated this. They should have expanded to Bolivia. They should have expanded to Brazil with Lula da Silva. They had a lot of leftist, progressive heads of state in Chile, all over Latin America. Most of Latin America was progressive except for Colombia. And they should have pressed hard. They didn't press hard. They relaxed. They started saying, let's just build. You can't be socialist. You have to be revolutionary socialist, which is an oppositional, aggressive form of socialism. You can't just say, well, I got control. I'm in the seat of power in my nation, and I'm going to govern my nation as a responsible and just person. That's not enough. You got to be in a perpetual state of warfare until capitalism will tolerate no socialism anywhere. Nor should socialism tolerate capitalism anywhere. Capitalism should be as much under threat from socialist nations and socialists as socialists are from capitalists. So the petro currency will bring a level of relief. I think the rest of Latin America is not going to get on board with that because they don't want the drones. They don't want the economic hitmen and the jackals and the saboteurs and the mercenaries and the contractors on their asses. No, I didn't. You need something? What are some of the errors Marcus Garvey made? First of all, Garvey was a Christian and a capitalist. He should have abandoned and renounced Christianity, and he should have shunned capitalism. And there were alternatives because before the communist revolution, all you had was basically mercantilism, agricultural primitive economy, and or the new emerging capitalism and industrial capitalism. He should have got with the Bolsheviks, not joined them, but implemented a more communistic or socialistic. And, Paul Robeson and a lot of other Africans saw the efficacy of capitalism. But that was one thing. He should have known better than to remain a Christian. And he should have abandoned the capitalism. Another mistake he made is that he didn't have an internal policing agency. He founded the African Legion, and the African Legion was for external force, for the attacks. He was anticipating aggression from like elements of the Ku Klux Klan and things of that nature. So he formed the Black Cross Nurses, but he had no internal intelligence agency. And if you're going to be a revolution, he should have had one brother looking and checking up on the next brother, and should have had like Stalin had when Trotsky was all the way in Mexico subverting the authoritarian structure that Stalin, and he got an ice pick in his head. And Stalin was touching his enemies from between the Soviet Union and Mexico. It was nowhere to go. He should have had a hit squad. He should have had a hit squad. He should have had an internal intelligence agency. He, like the Haitian revolutionaries, were too trusting of our people. I don't think he understood the depth of menticide and the depth of betrayal and the unrelentingness. Another mistake that he made is Marcus Garvey believed that Africans demonstrated our capacity to govern a state. We just demonstrated our capacity to build mass organizations, to govern states, to come up with economic agendas, political agendas, to write our own constitution. He felt that the main reason that white people treated us the way they do is because they had this concept that the black man was inferior and incapable. But when we would show that we were his equals or better, and that we were capable of governing and managing the state and engaging in legal trade, he felt that the white man would come to an epiphany and begin to respect us and engage us as equals. So that was probably his biggest mistake. He thought that African liberation could coexist with capitalism and white global domination. That was probably his biggest mistake. And many more, but I don't want to get on Garvey. Y'all already made me go in on Kwame Nkrumah earlier. Y'all want me to just tear down all my heroes? Damn. Now stop it. That's enough. Let's talk about white folks. Let's talk about Yvette. Well, no, we need family. At 15% of the population, we need family. No, at 15%, we are more than a quarter of the global population. We got the biggest land mass, and there's over 1 billion Africans on the continent and worldwide. We need allies. We need our family more than anything. You don't call your brother your friend. You don't call your sister your friend. Y'all can be friendly, but even if y'all don't like each other, that's still your brother. We don't need friends. We need family. 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 We tend to let everyone in our house without asking what their intentions. That wasn't a question, but I want to talk to that. Ebony said we tend to let everyone in our house without asking them. It said them what their intentions. This is true. What's his name? John Henry Clark. I just need to write names. I feel like that dude from Memento. I want to tattoo names because names just are whack. Anyway. John Henry Clark said, when you look at the best quality of a person or a people, On the flip side of that coin, you'll find their worst quality. He said the best quality about Black people is our depth of humanity. The best quality of African people is the depth of our humanity. And one of the characteristics that demonstrate the depth of our humanity is what is called xenophilia. We know what xenophobia means: hatred, fear, distrust of the other. Xenophilia is embracing of the other, trust of strangers, welcoming of strangers. So that's a great quality. We're good people. We got a lot of love, a lot of heart, a lot of rhythm, a lot of spirit. That's one of our best qualities. What's the other side of that? On a planet dominated by capitalism, global white domination, the Western mentality, or as Dr. Clark also said, the mentality that came out of the icebox of Europe, it's our greatest asset, our greatest quality becomes our greatest vulnerability. So that's something we have to come to terms with, and I think that can only happen through a revolutionizing our culture, becoming revolutionaries. Here's Chris again. Man, you made me go to my books to answer. Let me just read the question. How do we organize our people politically who are dogmatic in their commitment to Democratic Party? We do not organize them. We don't. If somebody is like, I'm a blue dog, died in the wheel, I love me some Clinton, I love me some Obama, let him be. What's that song? Let it be, let it be, let it be. And let me tell you one thing. Somebody had quoted H. Rap Brown. I believe it was H. Rap Brown or Bobby Seale, but I believe it was H. Rap Brown. H. Rap Brown was accused by the media of provoking riots and unrest in the Black community. And H. Rap Brown said, revolutionaries don't make revolutionaries make revolution, but revolutionaries do not make revolutionaries. He said the system, the oppression, the contradictions are what radicalizes people. The only thing I do is once y'all fuck them over, once y'all fuck them over to the extent they ready to burn this shit down, my responsibility and obligation is to have an apparatus, a structure, an ideology, protocols, and agendas in place to integrate them so that they can better use their righteous anger, rage, and awakening in a productive way. So what we do is we don't bother Black Democrats. What we do is engage with Black revolutionaries. And we pool our resources and coordinate our efforts to create an alternative structure, a viable alternative to Democratic Party, a viable alternative to the Democratic platform, and we accrue the resources and we cultivate a network and protocols that where we can begin to not just accrue and amass and earn resources, but we can begin to produce and control resources. And then when people finally get enough of Obama to say, well, Obama come and tell you, take off your house shoes and put on some work boots. And they be like, fuck it, I'm sick of it. Where do I go from here? Most Black people say, hey, where do I go? Most Black people say, if we reject the Democrats, we got to go to Republicans. And there are some stupid, insane Negroes that are jumping from the Democratic pan into the Republican fire. Where is the Pan-African revolutionary alternative? So I say, leave them alone. When you walk past the doghouse, leave it a bone. Let's build the African revolutionary infrastructure, cooperative enterprises, study groups, communal fitness, our social networks, our intellectual culture, our international bonds, our avenues and means of trade and currency exchange. Let's build it up. So when somebody's like, I'm sick of these goddamn Democrats, and I ain't stupid enough to go play footsies with the Republican, I'm going over there with the revolutionaries. I know where they are. I know where their businesses are. I know where their schools are. I know where their infrastructure is. I'm going over there. We don't have nowhere for them to go. But until they wake up, I mean, you can't really wake people up. You can't free slaves. You can create a path from slavery to liberation, but you can't drag people down it. Leave them there. And there's enough of us who are at least are one or two things: either actually work or claim to be woke to do this. It's enough of us already. We ain't got to wake up another black person. It's just the woke people start to act like they got some goddamn sense. If woke people started to live out and implement our ideology, we wouldn't have to recruit another African into this thing. If 1% of the global population can control us, 1% could liberate us. But we got more than 1%. Everybody that show up for Kwanzaa, that claim to be woke, every black person that claim to be woke, if they just started being woke, not just talking woke, but living woke, it'd be a wrap. What vegan foods would you recommend for bulk buying, cooking large batches to eat during the week? Long grain organic rice and whatever organic legumes, beans, split peas. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what's in the cupboard. I'm a vegan 100%, but you know, my wife don't let me in the kitchen too tough. So I might have to have her dip in for y'all vegan questions, or maybe I'll have her do a special vegan questions only Q&A with Dr. Mingo. She's a vegan chef, one of the best vegan bakers in the country, and anybody that want to try to challenge that title, put your money up. But anyway, legumes, what are anything in the dried organic? Just make that stuff organic. Don't buy non-organic bulk items. Have you all fucked up in the game? Speak to China and Africa. Get the fuck out. That's my position on China and Africa. Get the fuck out. Idi Amin waged a war against neighboring Tanzania and the Congolese rebelling against Mobutu. Definitely, Idi is not a revolutionary. No, he wasn't a revolutionary, but he was definitely a nationalist. But again, it ain't this is not a world of Batman and Jokers. Nobody's perfect. New Zealand opened the door for whites in South Africa. Yes, and they're gonna go. Hello, Mark. What's up, man? Chris again? Trying to give me these stumpers. What are your thoughts on Huey Newton's intercommunalism? I fundamentally agree with it, but again, I'm gonna have to go get my text so I can explain to people what it is. But there's a lot of things with Huey I don't agree with. I got a lot of issues with Huey P. the Newton, Dr. Huey P. Newton. What kind of mic are you using? Ceiling fan spinning fast, but it's not being picked up on the mic. I'm just using the mic that's on this computer. I got a HP something. I'm not a Mac dude. I'm not hip enough to carry a Mac. You know, I don't own enough cardigans to own a Mac. I haven't met my Mac cardigan quota. So y'all hipsters. But the fan is on low, but it's still hot in here because I got the bright light. You know, I'm trying to step the game up, light myself right. What are a few good books on revolutionary thought and behavior? To Die for the People, Black Power. Oh, let me just go. Let me go to the shelf. Shoot, let me just see what I have here. This is random. AF. Black Power is a good book. Let me see. Still looking. I'm just scanning the shelf. Oh yeah, that's a good one. But I ain't gonna share that one. Oh, let me get. Oh, here. Culture Bandits, Volume 1. This is a good one. Oh, I'm not being fair to Facebook. This is a good one. Good books. Let me see. I'm just going random. There are literally thousands of good books. And I don't want to let me tell you something. This is a good book. You know, anything the white oppressor tell you don't read it. That's a good one. But that's just down here. Most of my books are upstairs. Let me just find one more. Oh, I got two more right next to each other. I have to organize my books. And The Education, not the Miseducation. The Miseducation is a lot popular, but he wrote a follow-up called The Education of the Negro and the Iceman Inheritance, Prehistoric Sources of Western Men's Sexism and So these are good books about thought, culture. Iceman's Inheritance, Michael Bradley, white dude, Carter G. Woodson, of course, African icon, The Education of the Negro, the Marx Engels Readers, and this is a very good edit on the Marx Engels Reader. It's not ideological. It's pretty straightforward. Culture Bandits, Volume 1 and 2, but also 3 and 4. I think he got up to 5 volumes of Culture Bandits, and Charles V. Hampton and Kwame Ture, Black Power. I think this is our next book. I might be wrong, and I know Chris is not going to like it because I said the wrong book earlier in the week. This is the next book in the Nubians for Literacy National Book Club. So get you a copy if you're going to read along with us. That's on revolutionary thought, behavior, and tactics. I didn't really give you anything on tactics, but War of the Flea, Guerrilla Warfare, Handbook on Revolutionary Warfare, and Che and Mao on Guerrilla Warfare. And the Book of Five Rings and The Art of War by Sun Tzu, of course. All those are taxes, and Wars of National Liberation by Seven Stories Press. It's a compilation. Wars of National Liberation is another good one. So that be that. I want to talk about the slave trade. This is one of the most famous white historians. Basil Davis. Look him up. He's one of the most famous white historians. Because we got black folks that are moving to the right, that are telling bigger lies than white historians about the African slave trade with these goddamn DOS sons of bitches. We don't have an aversion to securing what we build. The problem is that she said that black people have a aversion to securing what we build. No, black people don't have a culture or mentality for perpetual warfare. And we refuse to accept the fact that whites are in perpetual warfare. They're in a perpetual state of warfare. And we're in a perpetual transition. We're in a perpetual state of crisis and periodic uprisings with extended periods of docility. So we don't secure what we want because we don't like security. I mean, black people built civilizations that lasted longer than most people's written languages in history. We're very good on being able to build and stabilize a system when it's not under perpetual attack. And not only do we not, black people not have the mentality or stomach or culture for perpetual warfare, we also never engage in total warfare. If a black man's going to fight you, he'll fight you on the battlefield. He's not going to follow you to your house and slaughter everybody in your house. Or like Dr. John Henry Clark, again, this is a Clark heavy night. He said the black man is a passion killer. He said, if a black man says, I'm going to kill you, just avoid him for 24 hours. Where the white man will kill you forever and never stop. And it won't even be anything emotional. You ever see those interviews with psychopathic serial killers? When they talk about the killings, it's like they talking about making toast. It's like, yeah, I dismembered the body. I cooked the brain. And, a brother be like, so we have to understand this about our own psychology. That's why The Iceman's Inheritance, again, is a very good book written by a white man. He's a snitch. He's snitching on his people. And that's why, he's one of the, least known. He's a great anthropologist. Oh, we got some Facebook, some YouTube questions. Why do you think the relationship between Africans in America is so, it's not eroding? The relationship between Africans on the continent and the Africans in the United States is not eroding. But it's kind of like where you orient yourself. If I was a church dude and I was into the church, I'd be like, wow, the church is growing and expanding. I'm an atheist. I'm a vegan. I was just over my homie's house. He's a vegan. A lot of people I know, I would think I could have the false impression that black people are awakening as a whole, all going vegan and wearing natural hair and using natural products, because that's what they call milieu. That's the environment that I create for myself, that my consciousness guides me to. But the relationship is not actually rapidly eroding. The ties, when you talk to the problem, but there is an erosion within the black community. And that is the erosion between the black nationalists, black Pan-Africanists, the woke Africans, and the integrationist Africans. And that's even on the continent. In Nigeria, in the Congo, in Namibia, in South Africa, there are the black integrationists who want no more than the white man has, but will suffer for none less, and we who seek to expel. But everywhere you go in the black community here on the south side of Chicago, you got Negro integrationists and you got freedom fighters. And that rift is growing and growing to the point where it might snap. And I hope it does sooner than later. And my side will win. And it would have won a long time ago if it wasn't for white interference and support. So, but the Africans on the continent, I can tell you right now, go on social media or go to your local community where you find any Africans from the continent. I don't care, Cameroonians, Gambians, Senegalese, and engage them. Go and talk to them. They'll talk right back to you. They'll be like my brother. And yeah, you can find that, but and you will find Uncle Toms, but you'll find that the Uncle Toms like black people are not Africans. There are as much Uncle Toms here. You know, every group has his Uncle Tom traitor scumbags, but I don't see that. I think that's more of an impression people have. I have a lot of brothers and sisters from the African continent that I communicate with regularly, that I built with. And we had brother Fode. He packed up and was like, I'm out this bitch. I'm out this motherfucker. I'm gone. I'm done. To hell with America. He went to Africa and was immediately accepted. Yeah, there was bumps and ticks, and yeah, he bumped heads with a few brothers and sisters, but by and large, he repatriated, and now he's there organizing, building. Anyway, get Black Star. This is Basani. Black Star. What does Basani stand for? Anyway, go holler at Basani. He'll tell you about his experience. He and his wife. There was a bit of culture shock, but they're Africans. And I know even more African people. Even Dale Jones, before he passed away, was building a beachfront home to retire in on the African continent. W.E.B. Du Bois. Show me of an African that went home and was chased out. In Ethiopia, they got Shashamoniland. I mean, the evidence points to the Africans are more than willing to embrace us. Okay, you in Nigeria, man, ain't no riff. We down over here. We love Afrobeat. Tell Shayun I said what's up. You know how we in it. We think he's like, I'm from Nigeria. Oh, I know an African in Kenya. Do you know him? Tell Shayun I said, give me a call. But I don't think that's the case. And we talk trash about each other, but that's all. You know, I talk trash about my sister, my brother here in the United States. We all talk smack, but when the jukes are down, we've seen that if the African unity was truly eroding, you wouldn't see our enemies and oppressors trying to create the diversion, to create the discord between us, if it was natural. Oh, Kanye and Candace Owens. Yeah. To hell with Kanye, Candace Owens, New Negroes, Uncle Tom, bootlicking coons. They ain't nothing about nothing. They not even worthy of discussion. Unless y'all want to discuss them. Is there a gardening program at Hales open for anybody to come learn? It's not really a gardening program. We basically manage the land, but if you want to come to Hales, get at me, because we want to expand that effort through ecologic outreach. If you are interested and working the land, cultivating the land, growing some food, consuming some organic food, and distributing some food to the community, inbox me. There's no formal program. For 3 years, we ran the Green Teens program and some other programs, but I had to cancel those programs because I was traveling a lot and I didn't have the support base to sustain them. So we're going to, we did grow every year. We've been growing more and more food, but the relationship with Hales is also tenuous. It is owned by it's land owned by the Jesuits and operated by some less than conscious Black folks. So we are looking for alternative places to grow. But if you are interested in growing food on the south side of Chicago, holla at me. You want to work, you want to grow the food, and the food will be grown, consumed, and distributed for, by, and of the people. So holla at me here in Chicago. I believe Eldridge Cleaver was an agent. Yes, I believe that he was an agent from day one. I believe that he was sent there to rise in the ranks and subvert the movement from within. And I think after he had done his work, he went back to his true self. The Eldridge Cleaver that denounced hate, that denounced the black hate, the Eldridge Cleaver that joined the Mormon tabernacle and became a Mormon, the black Eldridge Cleaver that raped and abused women. That's the true Eldridge Cleaver, the revolutionary Eldridge. And he says some things. I've read Eldridge Cleaver. I just purchased it. Hold on, let me go get that book because I believe in reading everybody. I'm here. Don't go away. I just purchased this book, Conversations with Eldridge Cleaver by Lee Lockwood. And I look forward to reading it. I look forward to reading this. I don't like Eldridge Cleaver, but know thy enemy, know thyself. And I believe he was a plant. And he said some slick stuff. He was a slick cat. He said he was an atheist. And he was like, yo, I don't believe there's a God. But if I'm wrong, did you call me? No, why do you think I'm doing my show? You want to come say hi to the people then? No. You don't want to say hi to the people then? All right. Hey, this is Bones Malone. This is my oldest son, Aromo Kenyatta. They got questions, so this is my Monday Q&A show. I got to wrap. Oh, I got a little time. Yeah, but I haven't called you. And when I do call you, you don't come. Right. So maybe it's just guilt that you're imagining. No, I just thought. What are y'all doing? Seiku's watching a dumb YouTube video. Did Seiku eat? He ate chips and hummus, but he says he's still hard. Well, that's hard times. Seiku and I a meat sandwich. Don't say meat sandwich. I'm on the internet. What kind of meat are you making? Tofurkey. The vegan. Right, tofurkey. Man, you trying to blow up my spot? He's making a tofurkey deli sandwich. Yeah. Don't make me anything. Okay. I ate over Charles's house. Anyway, where was I? Man, I can't. Kids, man. That woman trapped me with these two kids. Where was I? I don't even know where I was before I was interrupted. Princess Fiona. What is a shiro? Can I be your shiro? I didn't. Well, thank you. I am flattered. I am flattered. But it's right. Who's a player hater snitching that I'm married? Oh, China. God, can I live? Ain't nothing but some little internet talking China. Dang. It's just a little internet. Anyway, I digress. I don't even know. Oh, Eldridge Cleaver, punk bitch. Eldridge Cleaver said, I don't believe in God, and I could be wrong. And he said, and I might die, and I'll see God. And God said, you didn't accept me as your Lord and Savior, and you said I wasn't real. And he said, you'll send me to hell. And Eldridge Cleaver's like, fine, and I'm willing to face the consequences of my actions. But I tell you what, if I die and go to hell, and I find that there's injustice and oppression in hell, I'm going to get busy organizing the hell chapter of the Black Panther Party. And I always thought that was slick. And Eldridge got a ton. Read Soul on Ice. I already looked through when I was buying this. I mean, he's a slick talker. I mean, but I believe he was a Manchurian candidate. Yeah. So I'm not a fan of Eldridge Cleaver, but I don't discourage our people from reading him. But just know. Don't try to implement or emulate Cleaver, but study. Anyway, I continue to regress. I can't even say I digress because I mean I got agents, so I got informers on here, and my wife is teaching class right now, so I could say some things. But now China's here, and apparently she didn't. Before she came on live, she drank a gallon of Haterade. So I gotta. Okay, please. Please share your books and Books Gone Wild. Flash your books and Ujang. Okay, send me the link, Samuel. Where are the black? We organize a black book club called Nubians for Literacy, NFL. So instead of just not watching the game, you can start engaging in constructive intellectual endeavors instead of just pure entertainment, mindless entertainment. If you want to organize an NFL National Book Club in your area, contact us. Go on Facebook, join the NFL Nubians for Literacy page, and we will work with you step by step. We will send you a book list, a syllabus, links, and an ongoing discussion. If you don't have a local Nubian for Literacy chapter, or you're not in a position to organize one, you can click onto the link and engage in our discussion via Zoom. So you can do virtual book club if you're not in the city of Chicago. So just go to Nubians for Literacy, ask the question there, and you'll get everything. Holler at Chris, holler at China, holler at Dr. Mingo, holler at me, and let's get this thing. We want to reassert and recultivate, establish African we have a strong intellectual culture. Our culture ain't just fine clothes and slick dancing and nice hairstyle. We have a very strong ideological, philosophical, and intellectual culture that they are suppressing. And we need to reassert it. We need an African Library of Congress. We need our own archives, and the PAD, the Pan-African database, which we're working on. So we're working to because we can't depend on Google or even YouTube or Facebook, even though I'm on Facebook, to be reservoirs for our collective knowledge and research. Why should blacks take white Jesus pictures down and put them in the garbage? Will it do any good? Yeah, it would do some good if we took down white Jesus. But one thing I say, I'm for taking down white Jesus and obliterating white Jesus. I am not in favor of turning white Jesus to black Jesus. I am not in favor of Africanizing Christianity or Islam. I am in favor of shunning, banning, diminishing the power, control, and relevance of Islam. Toss it into the ash can of history. Again, I'm going to limit myself to 5 Dr. Clark quotes per session. But he's like, anything in your history that is in your arena, in your life, that cannot be used for the advancement and liberation of your people, toss it in the ash can of history. Yes, we should get rid of Christianity, and we should stop pretending like we're obligated to respect other people's delusions. I believe in Jesus, so don't talk about my Jesus. Yeah, I'm going to talk about your Jesus. I don't hate Muslims. My oldest 2 brothers are Muslims. My father is a Muslim. I don't hate Christians. My grandma, my mama, my auntie, my younger brother, Christian. I got Muslims, Christians, all in my family. I hate Christianity. I hate Islam. I don't hate Muslims. But I don't respect your delusions. So if you come to the table saying, well, God said, I'm going to call it, it's just like your genitalia. Don't flash it if you don't want it critiqued. Now, it's like if you obey Malcolm's mandate is said, leave religion. Malcolm became a secular leader, and he advocated secularism. I will work with a Christian, but our operations, our program, our organization will be secular. And if we're going to do something and you want to say a little prayer, you want to go, it's noon, and you want to go to a mosque and bump your head on the floor, I'm not going to stop you. But don't bring that mess over here. Malcolm said, keep your religion in the closet. Leave it at home. Keep it personal. The moment you make the personal public, the public has a right to critique, engage, and do whatever else we will with it. So I will respect your religion if I don't know it and you don't show it. I'm not, like I said, treat your religion like your genitalia. I'm not Trump. I'm not going to grab you by the pussy. But if you flash in your pussy, I'm going to, at the very least, articulate my opinion about it. Why do you think people are emotionally invested in celebrities who have contributed nothing to the just aspirations of Africans? What is your view on celebrities who act in CIA propaganda movies? Speaking of which, speaking of which, they're oriented to the Eastern Shift. United States wants to provoke some type of armed conflict with China. And there's this new movie starring Common, a bony homie from Starving, called Hunter Killer. And it's an old school propaganda film. I believe that people are so enamored in with celebrities is because we are primed from birth. We are primed through a system of indoctrination into this concept of vicariousm. And vicariousm is what Touré called the great man theory. They believe that things in history are accomplished by a great man or a great woman. That the people, but he said that only the masses of the people make history. So they say that George Washington fought the Revolutionary War and beat the British redcoats. When it wasn't George Washington, it was the masses of the people. They tell us Dr. King got us civil rights. When it wasn't Dr. King, it was the masses of the people. And so since you already orient toward looking towards, look to the light, look to the savior, look to the individual, and it's an individualism, and we're indoctrinated into individualism, those individuals who are celebrities, who are celebrated, the most beautiful, the most talented, the most glamorous, you're already, so it's a system of indoctrination. There was a time, especially even during the Shakespearean era, when being an actor was not a high job. It wasn't, you wouldn't pay an actor. These traveling, they were like carnival barkers. People would go and enjoy the show and go about their lives. But now people, obsess about these celebrities because we are an individualism, materialism, vicarianism. We are indoctrinated in our minds in these things. And a lot of people, you think they'll tell you, I like this celebrity. Why do you like them? Because she fly. And, they think that these are their choices and they're acting independently. And the only way out of that is to acknowledge it and then take deliberate steps. It is another symptom of menticide, celebrity worship. But the peasants used to do this. In the old Europe, in feudal Europe, the peasants would gossip and worship and look up and try to dress up and talk and act like the kings and queens and noblemen and duchesses. This is nothing new, and it serves the same purpose. But coming into consciousness will help you avoid that. I met a mutual person who follows his organizing and his music and that reads my blog and stuff, said you should holler at Sheung. I was asked how I met Sheung Kuti. So Sheung was here performing at, where was that show? It's a new spot in Hyde Park. Promontory. He was doing a show at the Promontory, and he gave me he contacted me on Facebook and was like, "Yo, I'll be in Chicago." And so I'm like, "Well, I'll be in Chicago too, because this is where I live. I ain't got nowhere else to go." So anyway, long story short, we met him and my wife. We went downtown. And we met downtown, and my car got towed because I parked in the no parking zone, but I didn't see the sign. And so Sheung offered to let me use his Uber or whatever. And I'm like, nah, I'll just walk to the tow lot because it was downtown in the underground. But anyway, that's where we first met a few years ago. And then we've been talking, building, and good friends since. I consider him my little brother. Yeah, I said little. And tell him I said little brother. Anyway, moving on. What up? What up? Y'all talking to each other or talking to me? Anyway, what's up to y'all too? Let's see what I'm missing. Black Star Action Network International. Please don't tell Fode, his beautiful wife, that I didn't remember. Right, please. I just say Bosani so much. Black Star Action Network International in full alliance. Shout out to the Black Star Network International. Shout out to brother Fode. Moving on. Fido said music should be necessarily used for enjoyment, but should be used. Absolutely. Yes, he did say. I do agree that music should not just be for entertainment. It should also be a tool. There's a good documentary featuring Fela Kuti dealing with this subject called "Music is a Weapon." I think that every aspect of our culture should be weaponized. Even our intimate personal relationship, every aspect of our culture should be revolutionized and weaponized against our enemies. So yes, even music. I agree with Fela on that issue and most other things, but not the weed. I don't smoke weed, never have. But my wife said when we get older, we're gonna have to start smoking weed for our upkeep. I know about that. I don't know. Vision for people the next 10 years. It's D.E.L. Jones, Mitch Moore. It's Dale Jones, D.E.L. Jones. Yes, he self-published his books. Where did I put that Dale Jones? Dale Jones, and I believe his wife has taken over the preservation of his works, Sister Corindon. So, but yeah, D.E.L., not D.A.L., Dale Jones. I found him in black bookstores. This was way back in the early 90s, 91, 92, where there were black bookstores in every black community from Oakland to New York and everywhere in between. there were black bookstores, and I went in and I saw the title Culture Bandits. And I saw this book. This is the very book. And I'm like, that's interesting. And I used to buy a lot of books whenever I had extra dollars. I used to buy conscious music and books. That's where all my money went. That's why I was so bummy. And dudes used to clown on my clothes. Every time I had an extra dollar, I get some. But no, let me not lie to myself. I was getting. But anyway, long story short, I met Dale Jones, and then when I moved to New York, I met Dale Jones, and he came to. I owned a bookstore called Think Bookstore. Shout out to Khalil. Shout out to Lady Shepsa, all the people that were with our group, the African Research and Application Collective that helped to set up and operate the bookstore in Brooklyn. And he was in town giving a lecture, and I called him and I said, Dale, brother Dale. He's a really funny dude. I said, brother Dale, and he was in Jersey, and I'm like, if you can come across uh, the way, come to the bookstore and meet some of your readers, sign some books, sell some books. And he had just put out an album. Dale actually has an album called Dance of the Elders, a wonderful album. And so he wanted to come there and sign his book, sign his album, and he gave a presentation. This was right after 9/11, and he had put out a book called Only, not a response to 9/11. And he gave a lecture, which I still have a recording of. I'm going to have to, maybe I'll send that out to my Patreon supporters. I'm the only person that got one of the final public talks Del Jones ever gave. And anyway, he was talking. My wife, my son, the stick figure that was standing behind me just a moment ago. When he was a brand newborn, when he's giving that lecture, you hear my son crying in the background, a newborn baby. Anyway, he talked to me and my wife about how to have a successful Pan African revolutionary marriage without hating on each other, and we gave him some vegan food. We gave him this wonderful vegan food, and he looked at me like I was crazy. That's one thing. Del Jones, he liked his food. He was a portly man, and he was transitioning. Actually, when he died, he actually said, "I'm going to start transitioning to a vegan diet." But I don't think, he said, "I practice veganism, but I ain't mastered it yet." He didn't say that, but that was basically his gist. And yeah, and so from that time up until his death, we would communicate. My wife would talk to him on the phone. He became a good teacher, mentor, and family friend up until he died. So, and I have all of his books. And it was unfortunate because when he came to the bookstore, I had to unlock the store and set up, and I was supposed to be relieved by one of our employees, and they didn't come. So I wasn't able to go home and get my large Del Jones audio and audio and book collect. So I didn't get a chance when he came to Brooklyn that time for him to sign my books. But Del Jones was one of the real. They say don't meet your heroes, you can meet. There's a few people that I've studied, followed from afar, and when I meet them, they're more than what their persona is. They're bigger than life. Like they're really real. Like Dale Jones was one of those people who was everything they were supposed to be in person and in their persona. Dr. Ben, I met Dr. Ben, Professor William Mackey, Wise Intelligent, MC Wise Intelligent. Shayoon is another genuine, so there's some genuine people. Everybody ain't no, like Dr. Clark would say, a foreigner, faker, or a fool. There's some real ones out there. Anyway, shout out to Dale Jones. And what else you ask? The vision for our people in the next 10 years. In the next 10 years, I think that Black people have to more aggressively integrate responses and preparation for climate disruption. So it ain't just enough that we have to fight capitalism and white domination, white atrocities, and white agendas. We also have to start to implement ecological readiness. So like the earthquake in Haiti, we also have to begin to look into things like holism, look into reforestation, renewable energy and resources. I think climate change, global warming, and ecological biomimicry, things of that nature, have to be as important as armed defense and revolution, as cooperative economics. The main thing is, I don't think that the Black liberation struggle focuses enough on global warming and the ecological disruption. And also when the peak resources, which you don't hear much about, but peak resources is also another thing that Africans have to fully integrate in. And where I see us at, we'll either be closer to freedom or closer to extinction, because it ain't no halfway between those 2 points. Let's see. Brother Diallo, what do you believe is a sustainable platform for liberation movement? I have no beliefs. I know or I don't know. So my conclusion or my analysis in terms of a sustainable platform, I think it has to be ecological and revolutionary, meaning that it's not enough. We need to stop trying to come up with this notion that we can coexist, that we can have our own. Let's go have Africa and allow them to have Europe or America. So I think that we need to say that our liberation has to be global. It has to be liberating all people. There is nowhere on this planet where you will be allowed to destroy the ecosystem, not even in Europe, where you will be allowed to produce neither weapons or mass destructions or products, goods, and services that destroy and have no respect for ecosystem. So the basic war cry needs to be what, again, Dr. Clark wrote in World Revolution. World Revolution. And one of the core things in the Black community means to be to fight menticide. The greatest obstacle to our liberation internally, besides once white people, capitalism, but internally, the greatest internal obstacle we face is menticide. We have to fight menticide by promoting analysis, critical thinking, and historical perspective. We need to develop, as Dr. Wright said, an African world view and African social theories. And then when we develop those, we need to establish protocols that we live by to enact, to make those material realities. I hope that answers your question. That was a pretty broad question. My method for retaining, really, when I read a book, I don't try to memorize anything. I just consume the information, but because of my personality, things stand out to me. My wife and I are both reading. We used to read books together a lot of times, but when she went to get her PhD and started doing her research and all that, we used to read together. Like we both read the same book and discuss it in our pair bonding ritual. And it was always curious to me, things that stood out to me in the book, she would totally overlook, and the things that were paramount and that stood out to her in the book were different. So one of the things you can do to retain when reading is read books in a group and then discuss those things. Because then there's going to be certain things that lock in on your brain because of how your brain was molded from the womb to your first day in classroom to now, and you interact with other people, and that allows, because whatchamacallit, like I said, set me up, asked me a question about a book that I read over a decade ago. He asked me about continentalism and Chinwezu's critique of Nkrumah. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? But then when I opened the book, you see my notes. I wrote the notes in the margins. I wrote that over a decade ago. So it stood out to me, but I didn't retain that. I had to go back, but I knew where to look when he brought it up. And I had an idea of what he said, but I didn't want to speak on those great people without knowing my shit. I know a lot of people just pop shit and they don't know what they're talking about. But since I have the time to say, well, let me go look that up and then I'll give you my feedback. So some things stick, some things don't, some things arise depending on what I'm doing. And some things come up to me like, oh, right. So it comes and goes. But I don't really try to clasp anything. Professor William Mackey did say I have a mind like a steel trap. I have that on tape. I gave a lecture at his study group, and he said, "Oh, you have a mind like a steel trap." I didn't know what that means, but I knew it was a compliment. And if you know Professor William Mackey, he was mean as hell, and he ain't loose with compliments. So I take that. I appreciate and take that with a lot of pride. Okay, where are we with questions? Yes, I do have resources on how to start a co-op. And it's a lot like starting a not-for-profit or a small business in terms of you need a corporate charter, you need bylaws and a mission statement and all that. And then, but here's the thing that you have to understand about starting that I didn't understand because I started 2 cooperatives here in Chicago. I've been members of cooperative. My first cooperative I joined was the Park Slope Food Cooperative in 1992, and I've been involved in working, sustaining, or starting cooperatives since then. But you can't have socialism without socialists. And I didn't like to think this. I was more of the come one, come all, brothers and sisters, come one, come all when we're doing this. But when it comes to the leadership and the founding, the nucleus, you got to have people that understand not just how to govern or operate or establish a cooperative. You got to have people who have fully internalized the ideology behind it of communalism, cooperation, shared resources, anti-individualism, anti-profit, anti-corporatism, antitrust. So, and when I say trust, not trust in terms of I can depend on you, but trust in terms of the trust busters. That's what they used to call corporations, trust. Or that was the corporate charter was a trust. But anyway, the first thing I would say is if you want to start a cooperative, make sure it's something that you're passionate about. Actually, I want to start. I had the cooperatives I have proposed here, but make sure it's something that you're competent in, passionate about. Don't just think because we're doing this for a good reason. That doesn't mean you're going to succeed. You still have to follow some market principles in terms of having something that is in demand, something that people are willing to travel to, and other location, marketing, promotion, all that other stuff. You got to be financing. The financing is a little different in terms of you pulling your resources. In fact, the financing is the least difficult thing as you promote the co-op and have people buy in and pull their resources. But there's make sure you pay respect to other principles of commerce, and make sure that you're founding your core, your board, your secretary, your treasurer, your chair people. Make sure they are socialist to the heart. Make sure you don't have capitalists and individualists that are just there along for the ride, waiting for the money to pile up, and then they're gonna grab it and run. And that's just, I'm still recovering from making that mistake here in Chicago. I feel like naming names. No good motherfuckers. We had a good thing going. What Erica gonna beat my ass for? I ain't done nothing to nobody. God, y'all be, man. Y'all sisters, man. Shoot. I ain't done nothing. I'm here trying to do my damn show, and people making accusations of things that I have said nor done. It's all whatever y'all say. I could rewind, and you don't rewind, do you? Whatever, man. Here, let's get back to the questions and leave the accusations on the table. Does the global environmental issues that impact us all supersede our fight? Do we need to fight on both fronts? If so, how? If so, as most on the environmental front care more for dogs than Black people? This is a question I've been wanting to get into, and we got a little time. It doesn't matter. I'd say the environmental issue is the supreme issue over liberation, everything else. The environmental issue, in fact, one of my main motivations for wanting to liberate Africans is because I know historically Africans have been better stewards of the ecology. The environmental issue, because I don't care if you in shackles or you the one holding the whip. There are certain universal fundamentals that humans need in order to sustain life. The planet Earth that we live on is losing its capacity to sustain complex life forms. Therefore, if you are revolutionary, if you are conscious, at the core of everything you do needs to be the reason we fight capitalism is because of slavery, is because of oppression, is because of unequal distribution of resources, is because of exploitation of labor. But the number one reason you fight capitalism is because capitalist development, industrial capitalism, is destroying the very life-sustaining capacity of the earth. And I don't want to be free on a dead planet. You can't be free. I don't want the freedom to have to send my children outside in a gas mask. So yes, if I had to classify, which I don't, I would love to be able to say it's equal precedence. But if there was a button called end ecocide or end oppression, I would probably push end ecocide first. Because we got time for oppression. We got time. We've been fighting this 1800s. This ecocide thing could kill us all in the next 50 years. next 50 to 100 years. Whereas under oppression, yeah, we can do some more rioting, we can do some more marching, we can do some more reform and integration, and we can do some DOS type stuff. We got time to make mistakes. We got generations to make mistakes. But this if I had to choose, I don't choose. I do it all. I'm on all fronts. If you see, you go back and look at my organization. Even when I was a member of the National Black United Front, I was one of the first members of the organization to bring an ecological platform and an ecological statement. I open vegan restaurants. I teach vegan holism, ecology, reforestation. I've always been on ecology since the moment I learned about what global warming, peak resources, ecocide was. But if I had to say it, you know, and in that there are resistance, animal liberation front, earth liberation front. There are some white people that get it. Like, we can't rule a dead planet, and we can't resist on a dead planet. So I think everybody. And I'm gonna have to do a show on this objectivism. Why would Trump be willing to kill the planet? There's a deep-seated ideology amongst white people that as to why they kill the planet. And black people have this notion that animal rights is inherently anathema, is contradictory to animal rights. I mean, to human rights or black rights. And we get mad when we see white people talking about don't slaughter pigs, don't kill the cows. And you're like, well, y'all killing black people. There hasn't been no time in history or human existence where a society lacked respect for animals and ecosystems, but yet not engage in high-level atrocities to people. They're one and the same. You will not find an inhumane system that treats humans with humanity. You will not find a system that respects. If you go look back at the Arawaks, Colorados, Cherokee, the Twa people, they had great reverence for nature. In fact, when Europeans got to the continent, they said Africans worship nature. They worship trees. The Native Americans have these totems. They worship the bear and the buffalo. That wasn't worship. That concept, man has dominion over earth, that is utter nonsense. So I support animal rights. Anything I can do to defend and support animal rights, I do not think that is a contradiction, that it takes away from my struggle for African liberation. It does not subvert or deprioritize my humanity. I think struggling for animal rights enhances my humanity and gives further legitimacy to our struggles. But yeah, shit is real. Realer than Real Deal Holyfield. Well, I think African people, we can't play with this. If you're not a revolutionary means you're a radical. Radical means you look at the fundamental source, the root of something. So if you can claim to be radical or revolutionary, if you don't have an ecological analysis and an ecological agenda, then you're a reactionary. I want to free black people. To hell with the whales. To hell with the polar bears. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen any true animal rights organization that dehumanizes people. A lot of the animal rights say that humans can do better and can be better. They actually have a more faith in humanity than most other people, even though as they fight for animal liberation or animal voice. One of the first black people to come out in favor of animal rights and to popularize that was Dick Gregory. And he had said, yeah, animal oppression is tied to human oppression, and human oppression is tied to animal oppression. So you don't like that concept? Take it up with by our great ancestor Dick Gregory. The way you start organizing local campaigns, and I'm not sure, Derek, if you're talking about political campaigns for public office or issue driven and platform driven. What type of campaign? What I prefer to organize policy campaigns. And it doesn't really matter what political party or what individual politician is. Like, this is a particular policy we want implemented. One thing I support is forcing law enforcement officers to carry personal liability insurance. If you go to the doctor and the doctor, either through incompetence or negligence, harms you, then the doctor, you can sue the hospital. You can sue the institution, but you can also sue the doctor, and the doctor's medical license can even be revoked. When I was an x-ray tech, some of the institutions said, well, they can come and sue the hospital, but if you harm a patient, you molest a patient, you do anything from a patient, they can sue the institution that you work for, but they can also sue you personally. So policemen should have to carry, that is a profession. So, you have every right as a police officer to pull me over, request my ID, to write me a citation for speeding. But if you go above and beyond your defined duties, then you personally, and if you get a report against you, even if it's found, then your premium will go up. And you make a cop is out in the community and he knows, well, I'm paying $250 a month in personal liability insurance, and every time I get a report against me for brutality or mistreatment, it can go up. And if they can not only sue, because right now when the police abuse us and you get a settlement, they take that out of our pockets. So we literally have to pay ourselves for police abuse. So that's a policy. And you can get Democrats, Republicans, independents, apolitical, pro-politics, anti-that. So I would develop that platform, articulate that platform, come up with videos, stickers, bumper stickers, t-shirts, and advance it. Another thing we want is to bring agricultural funding, agricultural subsidies to urban farms. Ain't no reason. The big form of welfare for white folks is Trump just gave them an extra $4 billion on top of the billions they already get. So that's another platform. And you can go to any neighborhood. And so I'm for Black people coming up with cogent programs. And this, again, is not an anti-revolutionary. Now, if you say, well, getting personal liability insurance for policemen, that's liberation. That's the goal. No, that's a strategy. That's a tactic. That's a tool. You can still do that in liberation. So I'm for policy development and implement. And the way you do it is you do basically an assessment of your community. What are some of the top problems in your community? What occupies the mind and the mind space of members of your community? Some people I just don't like the blight. Our communities are ugly. I want more Black businesses. You can't lose with Black businesses. And then you construct a political platform and a grassroots platform. And as you work to merge the political and grassroots. And as far as funding, it's old school. Everything from bake outs to approaching the local hustlers and sales. You can start a cooperative enterprise and then put the surplus revenues toward. So there's a way. That's something we should talk in more detail. View on the United Nations. The United Nations is a farce. The United Nations, if you're not a member of the Security Council, you should not be a member. I think all non-Security Council signatories to the UN should walk out and abandon that bankrupt, corrupt institutions. But every African nation, every Latin American nation, every Asian third world nation sends a few bureaucrats and they march around New York City and they go to the head and they wear these stuffy ass suits and talk all this bullshit and nothing happens for the people. The United States does not regard the UN Charter. Israel has utter disregard for the UN Charter, and Western Europe has utter regard. The UN is nothing but a bludgeon to beat third world nations over the head. It is a neo-colonial institution that has no legitimacy. It never had legitimacy. When the United States founded the UN and brought all those Nazis here to work on the U.S. missile program under Project Paperclip was the moment the UN lost legitimacy before the ink dried on the charter. Fuck the UN. But then again, if they come with some free rice, take the rice and then fuck the UN still. Yes, Halliburton and Shell criminal organizations. How do you get up under the weight of it's infested Africa too? The way to end white supremacy is by developing justice. It is an inherently unjust system. Fred Hampton said, you simply do it by raising the contradiction. This is a vulnerable system. If you really study the white supremacists, if you study the capitalists, they are extremely vulnerable and extremely insecure. And they rely on the people being ignorant, the people being deceived, and the people having active or passive cooperation. So as we begin to if revolutionaries, the people who are anti-white domination, anti-capitalism, if we begin to work with each other, but we want to be able to do revolution in our part-time, we want to be able to pursue our individual personal goals and do revolution in our full time. So revolution fails because the revolutionaries do not give it the proper nurturing and the proper attention. Living heroes and sheroes, me personally, that's a good one. Let me get back to you on that. Living heroes and sheroes for me personally. I don't want to embarrass nobody. But I say, my grandmother, my great aunt, uh, in terms of helping me become the man that I am, my wife, cold-blooded, boy. No, they please send what? Y'all saying leaving ominous messages on here. Games are sucking, man. Everything's a freaking sports game or first-person shooter. I like real-time strategy games where you build civilizations, you gather resources, and you beat the shit out of your opponents. I can tell you the games I'm playing right now. I'm just to kill time, which I don't have time to play. So a lot of the games that like kind of pull you in and the intricate games, I like, good storylines. I like the Gears of War games. But if when I do get time to play games, I play Diablo 3. And that's just like some mind-numbing stuff, just some decompression type stuff after dinner on the weekends. But I really like Dawn of War, Dawn of War, Ultimate Apocalypse. My son's been asking me like 3 weekends play with him, but yeah, that's a real commitment. And I'll whoop his ass, and then he try to get his younger brother to help him. They team up on me, and I still whoop their ass. In terms of games that are coming down the pike, I don't even know what's coming. I just kind of like my sons go out and get games, and then if I see them playing a game, I'm like, I like that game. Give me the controller, give it here, and I take the game over. And then if they find out I like a game, they kind of don't like it no more. They just like that's an old man game. So right now I play regularly, and then I want to go back and play the whole Dawn of War series with my sons, like in co-op mode. But like I said, I don't have time. But when I do play, right now I'm just playing Diablo. I was playing Injustice 2 heavy. I wanted to get all my fighters to like 30, but then no, you're supposed to go to 20. I got all my fighters to 20, and then they took the legendary level to 30. I'm like, man, that's a hustle. But I was playing Injustice 2. What's that other game? Mortal Kombat, of course. But you know what I'm waiting for? Oh, I got a game that I'm looking for. The new Splinter Cell. I heard they're coming out with a new Splinter Cell. I've played all the Splinter Cell games. So I'm looking forward to the new Splinter Cell. So if you're on Xbox and you want me to beat your ass, just log on if you want to ass whooping online. And I'm Mace Zulu, M-A-Z-E Z-U-L-U. So if you want to hook up I'm on Steam and I'm on Xbox One. So I can share my gamer tag if you want to get on there and get your feelings hurt. Holla at your boy on some head-to-head fighting. Oh, and I think they're coming out with another Soul Calibur. My son and I, we got an ongoing thing with that too. And yeah. But I kind of like let the games come out and I'll try some, but I don't have time to game like I used to. When the revolution come, I guess. But then y'all probably do away with the bourgeois gaming industry. Who knows? If the games are around after the revolution, I'll really become a pro gamer. That's my true fate. Why aren't we better affiliated with your African brothers and sisters organizations? Why? I don't know what that question means. But we're not. I know we don't coordinate enough. I think we need to formally organize a we need to formally organize a diasporic union. I think the diasporic headquarters, the diasporic capital of all Africans, and we need to develop the diasporic program on how Africans outside of Africa can speak to the needs of Africa and how Africa's resources can be properly distributed to Africans within and outside of Africa. And again, if you don't have a globalized agenda, if you just want, I want to help my hood, then again, you're just going to establish a vulnerable enclave. Even if you're successful in your local organizing efforts, at best, you're going to end up getting Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Rosewood, Florida. You're going to get smashed as soon as they feel like it. Global system requires a global system of resistance. I like Richard Wolff a lot. Now, I've read some of his books, and I like his weekly updates. I don't catch him every time, but I think Richard Wolff is a communist economist, a radical economist, and I think he's good for white people. You know, and I think his Marxist his reading of Marx is right on point. He really supports the cooperative economics movement amongst white people, and I think he's a good white. Yeah, there are good white people. He's one of them. And if you like Richard Wolff on the economics, you should check out Derek Jensen and Sue Sarah Taylor on the political and the political end of this. To me, he makes a revisionist, a bit naive look, overthrow of capitalism. He doesn't suggest that there will be no bloodshed. I don't think he suggests that, but because again, he's Harvard trained, so he's got some hangups there. But I don't think he says you can overthrow capitalism. He really Richard Wolff saying that capitalism is going to. It's saying capitalism is an inherently flawed, going to collapse. It's always talking about an eventual collapse of the system. So what he says is if we start to work cooperatively amongst each other, we can endure the collapse. So he's basically saying we can build a parallel economy to capitalism, a divergent and parallel economy. As capitalism erodes and collapses under its own contradictions, we can do it. So he doesn't think that we can bring down capitalism. He thinks that capitalism is going to fall regardless of what we do, whether we resist it or not. And the only thing we can determine is whether we're going to collapse with capitalism or we're going to build some viable alternatives. So I don't think he's naive, but I do think there are some blind spots that he has, but he's white. He gonna have to stomp out his own brothers. It ain't easy to do. Look how much trouble we have dealing with our own traitors and Uncle Toms. But like I said, I'd recommend him and I think he's good for white folks. I think white folks should listen to him. No, I don't have the donation set up. I have to set that up. I'm not really up on this online stuff and cash apps, and I appreciate you wanting to donate. Give me a week. I'll look into that and set it up. But I do appreciate you, Phil, and I do need the funds. And my website is down. I got to get them, man. It's a struggle. Really, I deal with haters through humor mostly. I deal with haters is just mostly through humor, and most of the stuff they come at me with is utterly comical. I just had a bunch of people come at me and send me hateful messages because of my critique of LeBron James and his school and the very concept of trickle-down economics and how when the Republican Party came to the Black community with the concept of trickle-down economics, we were outraged and Black people wholeheartedly, to the man, rejected trickle-down economics. But then soon as our Negro elite started trickle-down economics, we embraced it. A lot of things we reject that came from Bush, we embraced it when Obama brought it to us. So I deal with the idiotic haters a lot of times through humor, and they kind of cancel themselves out. They're so full of contradiction and absurdity. I don't even have to respond to them most of the time. I just share what they said, and the average thinking person can see it's bullshit. What does a full day of revolutionary work look like, and what does a win look like? A full day of revolutionary work, I can go through a day. Well, let me just talk. This morning, I got up and went to the gym. Today was leg day, which I hate. I came home and my wife and I were talking about setting up the websites. We were talking about coordinating the efforts. I was talking about how to, do the on-ground African World Coalition, and then I'm writing up basically a organizational outline and determining when I can have a meeting to my other allies here, Komet, Chris, China, and bring people together to begin to delegate the work. Today was Columbus Day, so actually it was kind of a day off, not in celebration of Columbus Day, but a lot of stuff was closed. So then I took my son to Charles. Y'all know Charles this year. We went over there and they gave us some good food. I took them some watermelons that I grew. Not watermelon. I'm tripping. I meant to take them watermelons because I got watermelons coming out my ears. But I took some pumpkins. I grew some of them big pumpkins, took it over there, and they're gonna carve them up. Him and his wife are both artists, fine artists. So they do fancy stuff. That's why I didn't even want to take them a pumpkin because I'm hating on them because I know we're gonna carve these special needs looking pumpkins, and then they're gonna have all these intricate designs on their pumpkins. They always, but I don't. It ain't a competition. It's a cooperation. Anyway, so I sat on the porch and talked to them, and then I gave my wife a ride to her class, and then we began to discuss more. I wanted to get to the garden, but it was a leisure day. And then of course I did a little reading. I talked with my son. My son wanted me to do a voiceover for this and Depressed Society, so I did a read over. That was my day, and to me that was a productive revolutionary day. Revolutionary day is not Revolution is not marching in the street, waving guns, RBG, calling honkies honkies as they go about their day. Revolution is um, living a productive life, making positive contributions to the just aspirations of your people. You are revolutionary. You are the revolution. So as you organize and you conceive, you conceptualize, you imagine, you envision, you make daily regular contributions to the work, but it's not like I have to depart from my life to do the work and then I get back to my life. It's fully engulfed in everything I do. I'm constantly reading as I travel. I take my books, I take my notes. I'm constantly in ongoing communication. Right now, the African World Coalition, as we're constructing it, is not a strict hierarchy right now, but I would like to get more operational structure, and I'd like to get more of our formations and programs up and running. But I'm more at this stage more concerned with the quality of the work than the quantity. I would like to do a lot more work. Um, and we also did some work on the research grant that we're working on. My wife going over just talking about how we're going to bring funds for urban agriculture and more institutionalized urban agriculture, growing the food. And then right now, most of the food grown in gardens dies in gardens. It's not consumed. Even most of the food we grew this season was not consumed. We didn't have a real way of distributing the food and distribution networks for the foods grown in gardens and amongst Black people and getting the consumers to and distribution networks unless you're going through them, selling it to the main distributor. So we're trying to think of alternative, independent, cooperative social distribution networks. So it's not really like, okay, right now I'm doing revolution and in the next 10 minutes I won't be. It's just all intertwined, a day in the life. I don't even know if that answer helps you. Now I'm even more confused and depressed about my work. How can we hold these for-profit activists accountable? Not folks compensated for their work and research, but for-profit activists. The for-profit activists, I have developed a new Negro self-exposure protocol. You expose them, you isolate them, and you expel them. China Fox and Chris, Yvette Carnell came here to Chicago, and they showed up, and they let it be known. And then they went outside and engaged the people directly and say, listen, those are lies. That is the wrong way to go. Here's the viable alternative. Here are the contradictions. Here are the inconsistencies. Here are the outright lies that she told. So you expose them and then you isolate them. You publicly call them out. You share their own words. You don't have to make up things. Like if I'm going to talk about Yvette Carnell, If I'm going to talk about Boyce Watkins, if I'm going to talk about Cyrus Seti, or what's that guy with the new Black Panther Party? Uh, what's the Malik? You know, he used to be a sycophant for Dr. Khalid Muhammad, the warrior lawyer. He calls himself a warrior lawyer. That dude. And if I'm going, I don't just say, well, this is what I think about him. I say, this is what they actually said. This is what they actually advocate. I use their own words against them. So it's not about he said, she said. So they self-expose. And then when I show you what they said, and then we begin to isolate, it's a simple protocol. It doesn't require that we have to bump heads with them constantly because they are self-defeating. They're self-defeating, but a lot of times people think that's the move. I want to be pro-black, then I got to go with these chest-thumping alpha male militants. And so you do one thing, you expose, isolate, and expel them, and then you build viable alternatives. We're not doing enough to give our people viable alternatives. What good is being free if no longer? Yeah, right on. I think that was a rhetorical question, right, Ava? Right. If the planet is dead, we free ourselves, and we can't even drink the water, breathe air, or grow food on the soil. So we'd be a bunch of free corpses. I want to live free, not just be free. What do you think is the new organization, Black Socialists of America? They sent me some stuff. They sent me some literature. I didn't look at it. I can't answer that right now, Tim. I'm not going to say it's an op or what. I don't know. Now I'm glad you sent me that because I actually got some stuff from there. I'll look them over and get back to you. Let me put that in the notes. Every week somebody got to ask me something I can't answer. Black Socialists of America. And, I'm already suspicious about Black Socialists because if you got a stomp of America on there, you could have stopped at Black Socialists. Hell, you could just be a socialist. So that whole of America stuff already makes me suspicious, but I don't have a position on them yet. I actually just was looking at it. I'm like, oh yeah, Black Socialists. There's a new group. They sent me a message or an invite or something. I'm going to look into it and I'll get back to you next week, Tim. Next Monday, we'll talk about I'll open up with Black Socialists of America. It's usually Chris answering me stumping questions. My opinion on the Kavanaugh, I'm glad white folks is finally being white folks out in the open again. White people hate their women. White people, before they came to Africa, they are already experts in systematic rape, oppression, discrimination, dehumanizing of women. I'm gonna have to end with this question. And feminism is not at war against misogyny. Feminism is at war with the undue distribution of spoil. The majority of the spoils of empire go to white men. And feminist position is white women do as much work to sustain the systems and institutions of industrial capitalism and white domination as white men. And they don't like the fact that white men control the resources and the purse strings. And so what white women want is not to end misogyny, end a damn thing. They're saying, give us our share of loot and give us our open opportunity. They want female generals, they want female heads of state, they want female CEOs. They want female executives of studios. They want to be able to grab dicks with as much impunity as Trump grabs pussy. And I think Kavanaugh's selection and the majority of white women support Kavanaugh. I think it's 46% of white women reject Kavanaugh. And though 46%, 99% of that 46% reject Kavanaugh because they think that Kavanaugh is not good at managing the power. It's not that they want white people. I have not seen white women organized to subvert or overthrow white power or patriarchal power. I've only seen white women organized to get what they conceive to be their fair share of the ill-gotten spoils of white people. There are one sector of feminism that is anti-capitalist, anti-imperialism that supports the relinquishing of power and territories that was stolen or taken through corruption by white people. And that is the revolutionary communist feminist or the radical feminist. They are the only, and they make up less than 1%. People like Sunsara Taylor. But most feminists fight to get women in. Like when the Clinton administration started the process and Obama finished it of allowing women to fight on the front lines of U.S. wars. Feminists said that's a victory. We got our first black female general of the Marines. That's a feminist victory. Right now, today, in the U.S. Senate, we have more women serving in the U.S. Senate at any time in the history of the United States. That's a feminist victory. But when you look at the policies coming out of the Senate, like confirmation of Kavanaugh, like the asymmetrical warfare carried out against Maduro, the violation of Venezuela's sovereignty, the ongoing drone war, and this is something nobody talks about. Trump in 2 years has matched the body count Obama built up in over 8 years. And that's quite an accomplishment because Obama was a relentless mass murderer. But Trump had unleashed the Marines, unleashed the CIA, unleashed the U.S. Armed Forces, and say, because Obama required the U.S. military to do signature bombing. So Obama signed off on every bombing raid. Whereas Trump is like, don't bring me that shit. I'm watching Fox and Friends. You know, I'm here masturbating my little mushroom penis to Stormy Daniels porn. Don't bother me with that shit. Do what you got to do. So the U.S. military cranked up to the level Obama had it at level 10. They took it all the way off to a level that didn't exist. And I had said, I wonder how long it's going to take Trump to meet to match Obama's body count. He did it in 2 years. And white women ain't said a peep about that, pretending to care about Honduran babies. So Kavanaugh appointment to the Supreme Court is business as usual. It's a bunch of freaks on there. They're all freaks, including even the left and Ruth Bader Ginsburg with her racist ass. Racist, feminist, liberal, progressive. All that and then some. So, but I'm glad that black people, and I don't know what they're going to do with this knowledge, but black people are getting a full spectrum, full frontal whiteness. This is who they are. This is their culture, their mentality. And the few white people that are like, I ain't with this. Oh, there's another good white person, since we brought up Richard Wolff, Medea Benjamin. Respect to her. You know, she had a fairly good assessment of his appointment. She's been fighting war, but she fought Obama as hard as she's fighting Trump. That's why I respect her. She fought the Bush and Condoleezza Rice. She banged on them all. A lot of people go quiet when it's a Democrat and want to raise hell when it's a Republican. I don't respect that shit. But Kavanaugh's appointment, I think that his only problem is the same thing as Trump. All the other good, polished, educated, articulate white people are in power, are very articulate and very well-mannered and poised. I say Trump and Kavanaugh are just taking the velvet glove off of the iron fist of white domination. And I'm going to have to conclude there because I got to run. But it's been a good one. I hate that I miss questions, and hopefully as time comes. Oh, I'll see you in Injustice too. Wait a minute, man. You know, you're gonna wait till I get off the air to start talking reckless. I'll see you. Boy, let me know. I'll come with my Ninja Turtles. I'll come with the weak characters. Relax, Tim. Fall back. Shoot, send me your gamer tag. I'm on Xbox. I don't do that PlayStation because I'm grown. I'm a man. I'm an alpha male like Umar, so I play Xbox. I'm melanated, you know. But don't talk reckless. October 26th, Soul Calibur. All right, what is it at? Like Soul Calibur 7? I will, Mitch. There's work to be done. Anyway, I have to go. I'm actually running a little late. But next week, Wednesday, we're going to be talking about practical, pragmatic revolution, specific actions. On Friday, got special guests, China Fox, China Informer Fox, China Stop Snitching Fox, and my man Chris Marshall will be on the air live and direct, the Bro.Diallo show. They're coming in studio, and we're going to talk about. I'm going to call that show "Dissecting DOS," dissecting the ideology, movement, and agenda, and the pathology and contradictions. Because they went there with Yvette. They got more heart than me. I just couldn't be bothered. I just couldn't go sit in front and look at that woman's cold, dead stare and listen to her groan, muff mouth voice and talk. I just couldn't do that. I'm breaking brown. And breaking brown means breaking shit. Brown is another word for shit. So she get dry, hard, and crusty and crumble it up and sprinkle it on you and call it DOS. Anyway, let me get off here because I know I'm tired and I still got a whole bunch of shit to do before I settle in. And I'm really starting to talk. But the dude over here talking about he can step to me in injustice too. Boy, come on, holla at May Zulu, Xbox Live. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I need my outro music. God damn it, I navigated it away. I can't do it. I'm a creature of habit. What is it? Oh, once y'all hear the outro music, that'll wrap it up. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your questions. I got one question. Hold up, Black Socialists of America. What do I think about them? I think I need to look a little bit more into them. It's reconnecting.
Racism the other thing on my mind.
Lord have mercy. Okay, I'm back. I'm just queuing up my outro music. So y'all, here we go. Here we go. Now let's leave. That's right. This is episode 3 of Q&A, Monday Q&A with Bro.Diallo. Thank you for your questions. Please share the show, get the word out, check Patreon. The website's down. Prayerfully, the website will be up in the next couple of days. And I'll see y'all next week with your questions. Please feel free to continue the dialogue without me. And I'm out.